Hi guys, and welcome to the latest episode of the FKFM podcast. So today's episode is another Q&A one. So the second of the Q&A series. So again, I popped a little question box on Instagram and I've chosen the 5 best questions to cover this week. So let's get straight into it. So the first one is, what is my opinion on a high-fat diet in the off-season? So this was asked by Tom Taylor. So thank you for the question, mate. So in regards to a high fat diet in any phase, I'm not a massive fan. So generally, we know carbohydrates are our primary source of fuel. Okay, so our most available source of energy is glycogen, which is going to come through carbohydrates. So for us to try and, let's say, limit those to have a higher fat intake isn't really going to be beneficial when it comes to training performance. So the most important thing is in an off season, as in any phase, is your training performance and how well can you train, how efficient can you train, how optimal can you train, how much sort of effort can you put in the gym. And having a higher carbohydrate diet is going to lead to us having more energy in the gym and us being able to sort of get a better performance out of our nutrition. So there's a lot of evidence behind this, and that, you know, generally it's much more favorable to have a higher carbohydrate diet in regards to performance. In sort of the off-season setting, I do understand, obviously, that fats will generally be pushed higher, and it makes sense to just to get calories in and be in a caloric surplus. For me, I will push carbs up as high as possible until the point where obviously fats are increasing just due to trace fats anyway. And once it becomes, let's say, very challenging to push carbs any higher to continue to stay in a surplus, then fats will increase. So like I was on 800 carb, I believe, in my off season last time. And my fats were at, I believe, 120. But it didn't feel like a huge amount of fats. Whereas that, like compared to now, sounds like a hell of a lot, especially when, when in prep I was having days where I was on 40 grams of fat. But, obviously as your food overall increases, your fats are going to increase through trace fats. And if you're getting to the point where you're really struggling to get more carbs in, then I don't see why adding a bit more fats in to make sure that you stay in a surplus is a bad thing. So not really too much of an issue there. But I wouldn't recommend people going keto if your goal is to improve your training performance and look better. Make sure that you're focusing on having a higher carbohydrate diet. Interesting one, actually. I had a client come to me one time, not that long ago, and say that he's been doing keto because he can't digest carbs. He doesn't like carbs. They don't sit well with him. And they just don't work for him. And I said straight away, I was like, right, we're going to try, because I guarantee that you'll be fine on the carbs, like having higher carb diet. And it's going to be what type of carbs you're having, nutrient timing, that's going to play a role. How well are you chewing your foods? Are you making your foods sort of enjoyable so that you're going to digest them better? All of this. And now he's on like 400 plus carbs, and training the best he's ever trained, strongest he's ever been, looking the best he's ever looked, or when he thought he couldn't have carbs. And sometimes people will get told things like that. Oh, like, yeah, you shouldn't have carbs. It won't be good for you. And people will just run with it and be like, oh, okay, I can't have carbs. It's like, you could be missing out on a massive, massive sort of benefit when it comes to your training and your energy levels and your performance and recovery through, higher carbohydrate diet. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that one. The second question was, does Shannon train? Or is actually, does the missus train? So does Shannon train, and how to keep healthy relationships while bodybuilding? So that was asked by Joe Lee. So again, thank you for the question, mate. So yeah, Shannon does train. She hasn't recently, with all the pandemic and everything that's gone on. Obviously, she couldn't train through the pandemic. We just live in a flat. I was obviously lucky to be able to train at Reese's garage initially and train at AJ's a little bit. And then in the second lockdown that we've just had, we had a private gym in Leicester that we could train out of. So I've been very lucky with my sort of circumstances, but Shannon obviously hasn't really had anywhere to train throughout those lockdowns. And we've not got really any room here to do anything significant. So it's not been ideal for her, to be honest. So she kind of like not really trained for a while now, but I think coming into the new year, she's going to get back into the gym. So yeah, she does train, and she's obviously trained for quite a long time, to be fair. She's old now. In terms of how to sort of manage a relationship with bodybuilding and how to sort of keep a healthy relationship. So the first thing is you need to find the right person. So first things first, if you're already into bodybuilding and training and everything before you find a partner, then they have to be understanding, because this is what you were doing before. Okay, so that they can't go and start falling out with you because you go in and training when you were doing the exact same thing before. So they knew all that when they met you. If you, on the other hand, start to get into bodybuilding while you're already in a relationship and the person that you're with doesn't like it or doesn't understand it, try and educate them as much as you can as to why you're doing it, why you enjoy it, why it's good for you, why it's mentally helping you feel better about yourself, why you're seeing results, happy, with how you're looking and improving in the gym and feeling good for that. Try and educate them. If they still don't like it, then you generally, I'm just going to say it straight, you're probably not with the right person, because some people are just like that. They're just bitter people who can't be happy for anyone else doing something that they love. So, generally just don't be with that person. And it might sound harsh, but, there's people like that out there who don't want what's best for other people, even if it is the person that they're supposed to love. So find the right person. Don't settle for anything less. Don't settle for someone who doesn't want you to train, doesn't want you to do this, oh no, you shouldn't be doing that, you shouldn't be doing that. No one can tell you what to do. No one should be telling you what to do. You need to find someone who is respectful of what you want to do. Obviously, you don't take the piss, and you have time still with that person. So like for me and Shannon, like Sunday is our day. So I'll still do a bit of work like in the morning before she gets up and that, but Sunday is our day. So like I don't train on a Sunday. So I have set training days. And so I keep Sunday as a rest day because I want to spend time with Shannon, and we won't get chance otherwise, really. Like we see each other obviously a bit in the week because we obviously live together, but I'm working when she gets back from work. I'm working before she goes to work. I train throughout the day when she's at work, and in the evenings we might get an hour or so to chill just before we go to bed. But it's not quality time where you can go out and do things together. So you need to set some time to have valuable time together. So that's important as well. And that is something I would recommend, is having set training and rest days. And it's something that I try and do with a lot of clients. So don't get me wrong, I think like a 2-on-1 off, 1-on-1 off split is great and very productive. And I think it could potentially be more optimal than a set 7-day split. But in regards to sort of social aspects and lifestyle, I think a set 7-day split is really, really helpful, because it can help in terms of setting, okay, right, Thursday is a rest day and Sunday is a rest day. So Thursday I'm going to do this, I'm going to put more work on my plate, I'm going to do this or that, I'm going to make sure that I sort all of this out, or I'm going to have an evening. Every Thursday night can be date night, let's say, because you're on a rest day and you're on a rest day and you can fit it in because you're not traveling back from the gym or going to the gym after work. And a Sunday, you could have a Sunday dinner, fit that into your macros easily. You could spend more time with family on a Sunday. Usually people are off work, so it'd work quite well. So that's how I'd work sort of bodybuilding and keeping healthy relationships, whether it be loving relationships or just friends as well. So find the right people that understand, have the right sort of circle of people around you. Anyone that doesn't benefit that circle or doesn't benefit you, then get rid of them. Okay, so the next question was, after my initial calorie increase after out of prep, did I hold my body weight at maintenance for a bit? So that was from someone called David. So thanks for the question, mate. So basically, coming out of prep, the goal was to get body fat back to a healthy range. So get to a point where I felt better and felt pretty normal again. So that was about 5 to 10 pounds up from sort of 5-ish pounds up from my stage weight and about 10 pounds up from my lightest weight. Did I then try and maintain that? No, I tried to go, and I did go into a very gradual surplus, which is exactly what I'm doing now. So I'm gaining body weight at a really, really gradual rate. Training's going well. I've got enough energy to go in and progress and get stronger. For me to just eat loads more food wouldn't really be beneficial. It'd be a little bit pointless, because I'm not going to grow more muscle because I'm just eating more if my training isn't improving at a vast rate. So, like I spoke about in a previous episode where, I was saying with fat, you can gain fat at an infinite rate. You can't gain muscle at an infinite rate. So just eating more and more and more food doesn't necessarily correlate to more and more and more muscle. So the goal was get that body fat back to a healthy rate, hold that sweet spot sort of composition, condition where I'm at now, and just gradually grow, push body weight up very slowly, focus on obviously training and performance in the gym and progressions in the gym, and just make sure that I'm in a very slight surplus so that I've got enough energy to grow. And I saw throughout my prep the fact that I was dieting for a long time and I lost a good amount of weight, but for the majority of it, my training was still improving. So I know for a fact that you can still train hard even in a deficit. You can still grow even in a deficit for a lot of it, for the most part. So I know that just being on loads and loads of food isn't going to mean that I'm going to grow loads and loads more muscle. So that's what I'd say for anyone coming out of a fat loss phase or a prep. Get your body fat back to a healthy range. Let's say I don't like giving body fat numbers, but like as an arbitrary number, let's say maybe between 8 and 12% for a guy and maybe 15 to 20% for a girl. Get back to that sort of sweet spot, try and hold that kind of composition and just grow through training harder, getting stronger, gradually pushing food up over time and sort of upregulating your metabolism over time. Okay, so question number 4. What do I eat before and after training? So that was from Hugo. So thank you for the question, mate. In terms of my pre-workout meal, so currently it is cream of rice, 100 grams of cream of rice, 80 grams of blueberries, 80 grams of raspberries, 20 grams of dark chocolate, 2 grams of pink salt, 1 gram of low salt, and 45 grams of whey. So that's my pre-workout meal. So thoughts behind that are I want a relatively sort of lower GI food, so a lower glycemic index carbohydrate, which means a carbohydrate that's going to be relatively slowly digesting. So that's the cream of rice. It's not, it's not really, really low GI at all, but it's not as fast as something like, it's not as high GI as something like, let's say, Frosty's cereal, which is what I have post-workout. So I'll have the cream of rice and I'll have obviously some fruit on there as well, which is going to sort of slow down the digestion a little bit as well due to the fiber content. And then I've also got the dark chocolate in there, which is again to help slow down the digestion of the carbohydrates so that I've got fuel throughout the whole session. So, sometimes my sessions are like 4 hours. So I don't really want to be going, especially through prep, I didn't want to be going sort of experiencing reactive hypoglycemia during the session, which is obviously just when my blood sugar levels are really low. So I didn't want to really experience that. And the way to prevent that is through having a decent amount of carbohydrates pre-workout, having a decent amount of fats pre-workout to slow down that digestion, and also to have an intra-workout carbohydrate source as well, which I do have, but I'm not going to cover that because you only asked about pre and post. In terms of the protein source in both pre and post, generally just something that digests well, which is my aim for the protein source of every meal, really. So pre-workout, it's whey. Post-workout, it's chicken breast. Chicken breast digests really well. So my post-workout meal is a higher GI carb source, and there's a lot less fat in this meal. So with this meal, the goal is to replenish glycogen stores as quickly as possible because we're in a more of a depleted state. We're also in our best position to uptake more carbohydrates, due to the fact that after training, our GLUT4 receptors are at the sort of their most active, let's say. And the GLUT4 receptors are sort of pathways that carbohydrates go through, let's say. So generally, you'll want a higher carb post-workout. I always recommend higher carb post-workout and a higher GI, so it's a lot faster digesting, and lower fat to, again, prevent any sort of, you don't want to be slowing down this digestion of this meal. And then again, the protein source wants to be, again, fast digesting, something that, sits really well. So yeah, that's pre and post. And like I say, I could go into intra another time if that comes up on a different question. So the final question is, will I ever go to the dark side? So this is by a question by John. So thank you for the question, mate. So for anyone that doesn't know what that means, will I ever go to the dark side? It means, will I ever go and be on anabolic steroids? Will I ever become a sort of enhanced athlete? Will I ever take PEDs? Will I ever stop being a small natty? And no, I would never say 100% no to like anything, because you never know what's going to happen. But realistically, no. I don't have amazing genetics, so for me to jump on gear, I'd just be a very average enhanced bodybuilder. Yes, obviously, I'm hardworking, I'm very meticulous and everything, but I think people overlook the role of genetics a lot. And realistically, like, I just don't have the genetics to be an elite bodybuilder. So for me, why would I want to jump on gear just to be a bit bigger and maybe be, the biggest guy in most gyms that I go to? It's like, is that worth it for all the sort of cost and the hassle of being on gear? Like, no, not really. Most people you speak to that are on it or have been on it say it's just, most people say not to do it. Most people moan about it a lot of the time. Very rarely do you hear people saying, oh, it's the best thing ever. Yes, it's cool. I think, realistically, if you want to take your body to that next level, it's something you're going to have to do. If you want to be a, top tier bodybuilder, it's something that you have to do. Obviously, a top tier bodybuilder. I'm not saying top tier natural bodybuilder, because bodybuilding, it's called natural bodybuilding for a reason, because it's not the norm. The norm isn't to be natural as a bodybuilder. So the top tier level of bodybuilding is all enhanced. And to even, think about being a natural at that top level, it's just not going to happen. And I mean like top level, like open bodybuilders, like 260 pounds plus peeled on stage. It's not going to happen. So yeah, there's sort of, you got to take that cost versus benefit. And realistically, for me, there's too many sort of cons versus the pros. And you can achieve a great physique naturally. So like, I know for a fact I've got so much more potential naturally to build muscle, so much more. I know that I'll be at 30 plus years old, I'll be a very, very good natural bodybuilder. There's no reason that physique won't be very impressive, and I won't be really, really happy with the physique that I can achieve naturally. You don't need to use anabolics to achieve a great physique. You do to achieve a top tier level of physique and be a professional bodybuilder who earns a living from it. Of course you do. But for me, to be sort of the best that I want to be, I don't need to go to the dark side, as you put it. So yeah, I'll leave it there, guys. That's the 5 questions. So I'll do one of these again next week. So once a week, I will do these. So make sure that you look out for the questions box on Instagram and ask any questions that you want to know the answers for. So I'll leave it there. Thank you all for listening, and I will catch you in the next episode. Cheers, guys.